Hello everyone, Moonlit Lioness here, and you have reached me on my channel for Stargazing Sunday, something I do every Sunday. This is for the week of July 26th through August 1st, and boy, what a week. I mean, if we haven't had an exciting week these past these weeks or two, this week is going to be literally the icing on the cake. So why don't I go ahead and share and get right into it with you. So let me see here, find my share. All right, I don't know if I can make that any bigger. Okay, I'm not sure if that's showing big on your screen or not. I can make it bigger. There we go. I think that shows a much better. Okay, that's filling up the screen. And we'll go like that. All right, so as I said, July 26th, August 1st, we've got this full moon happening this week, and boy, is it a doozy. So let's just go through the moon phases and kind of talk about the energy of the moon this week. So early in the week, we've got the Capricorn moon, which kind of influences us into being paying attention to our responsibilities, helping us to be more dutiful and goal oriented. And then as we get to the middle of the week, where the full moon is happening, we're going to feel more experimental, freedom-loving, individualistic in nature with that Aquarius moon. And then by the end of the week, we're kind of going into this more compassionate, intuitive, spiritual type undercurrent. If we want to look at the planetary aspects, on July 26th, that's today, we've got a Saturn going in retrograde. And also our north node, our nodes are changing axis. So the north node is going into Aquarius and the south node is going into Leo. That's about reassessing responsibilities. Our Saturn retrograde is about reassessing our responsibilities because Saturn is responsibilities, moving toward our future with vision and detachment. That's our north node entering Aquarius. Okay, that's kind of the way it's going to impact us. As we go into tomorrow and Tuesday, we're going to have the sun coming into an opposition with Pluto, and it's going to be applying towards a conjunction with Jupiter. And when you get these oppositions, there's going to be some intensity with it, all right? So Pluto can be about control, and the sun can be about your individuality, who you are, your vital purpose, and how you shine. So there could be some transformation going on between what you feel like you need to control and what you feel like you need to release in order to show yourself or be seen, because sun will be in Leo. And then Venus square Mars, we've got this tension going on here. So we've got an opposition followed by this square tension, and the full moon is also involving this opposition. So let's move on and just kind of go into them one by one. And as I did last week, I'm going to include the tarot imagery to kind of help you see a little more about, let's see, its sides cut off just a little. I'm going to shrink it down so you can see it a little better. Okay, we'll see the tabs, but that's all right. If we look here, Saturn retrograde, with Saturn retrograde, I showed that as the World card upside down. So in tarot, the Saturn card is the World card. And, you know, that again is our responsibilities, and how we what we build with our lives. It can be also fears, and with it going into retrograde, maybe we're revisiting things that have kind of held us back, and we're saying, you know, thinking, why are we holding ourselves back? Saturn goes retrograde every year for so many months, so it's not an unusual thing that happens. It happens on a regular basis, but it is a time that kind of gets us to slow down and review and think about, you know, what is holding us back, what do we want to build. So that's why it's upside down in this particular situation. It's kind of showing that, it's not a Saturn building in action. It's a Saturn that's reviewing. Okay, what am I building? What do I need to build? What's holding me back, kind of thing. And then you've got also the same day. So here's Saturn over here. I just want to show you, and it's not necessarily in the third house. I didn't take the houses off, so I apologize. But so you can't rely on the third house being an issue, a thing here. It's just Saturn in Aries. So being in Aries, Saturn, it might be more about where am I not taking initiative, very much about how am I being held back, or how am I letting fear hold me back. I think that would be a big part of this Saturn retrograde. And then going into the axes, there's the axes. You've got your North Node in Aquarius right here, and that's shown with the star. And then you've got the South Node in Leo, which is shown with the Strength card. And with the North Node entering Aquarius, it's about embracing your uniqueness, not being ashamed of it, getting out there and saying, hey, I'm me, and, like it or not. And looking to the future with hope and wisdom. So that's kind of that energy right there. That's what we are working toward. That's what we're trying to accomplish. Every little aspect that's happening is kind of nudging us toward this Aquarius mentality, and more about the collective as well. Our vision for humanity, not just ourselves. Where in Leo, the South Node in Leo is where we're letting some things go, and so it's a release for the need for validation, maybe letting go of old pride, drama, or control, which are all aspects of Leo. Instead of the Pisces Virgo axis, now we're in the Leo Aquarius axis. All right, so here on July 27th, we're going to see the Sun join this Barbault Basket. So we had Jupiter in here at 4 degrees. Jupiter's moved on to 6, and now the Sun is at 4 degrees. So now we've got this situation where this mini trine has been building for over a year, and then we had this 4th point creating the basket happen not that long ago, last week, with Jupiter, and now we've got the Sun coming in. So it's like almost like Jupiter has paved the way for the Sun. Jupiter's plowed the path. Jupiter brings blessings, Jupiter expands things, Jupiter brings truth. So it's kind of like it's paved this road of truth and expansion for ourselves, our Sun, our identity, our purpose, to come in and shine. And then you've got this opposition here to Pluto. So let me just show you here how the tarot shows this in imagery. So here, the top of the basket is made with Pluto and the Jupiter and Sun conjunction right here. So Pluto is the Judgment card. Pluto is where deep transformation happens, right? It's where there's a rebirth or a higher sense of purpose. Also secrets being revealed. And being an Aquarius, Aquarius is kind of like the systems, collective, the humanity, and that kind of thing. And so with Pluto there, it's changing over systems and things like that. So let me go over to this one over here. We've got the Sun and Jupiter. If you look at the tarot for the Sun and Jupiter, the Sun is the Sun card, Jupiter is the Wheel of Fortune. So because these are the last aspects to come into this particular design or configuration, this configuration's been here for a while, but the Sun and Jupiter have only come in very recently. It's almost like they're flipping a switch, and that's what the Wheel of Fortune looks like. It kind of gives you that imagery of, I'm coming in and I'm flipping the switch now. I'm changing something to help something shine, to help something light up, right? So in this particular situation, with the Sun, that involves your confidence, that involves, it can opportunities, and with the Wheel of Fortune here, which is Jupiter, that creates expansion, so opportunities can expand. step into your light, shape your destiny. Yeah, these two cards together can paint that kind of a picture. So that is kind of in an opposition to, which means they don't mesh together. This doesn't, very self-oriented energy, very self-focused energy is not well aligned with the systems or collective energy. So it's a more difficult thing to integrate together. Excuse me. All right, and then the other part of the basket is Neptune, which you've got Neptune in Aries, and Neptune is the hanged man. So Neptune in astrology can be things that are hidden, illusions, delusions, or it can be the spiritual. It often involves dissolving of borders, merging with the divine, things like that. So here in the Neptune card it says, let go of the old story, trust the invisible. You know, that's kind of merging with the divine. A new vision requires faith and patience. So, you know, it's a faith, there's a faith element going on with the Neptune energy here. And then over on the other side, to represent Uranus, this other part of the basket, we've got the Fool. And the Fool is represents Uranus by showing freedom to explore innovative thinking, leaping with courage into the unknown and with an open heart. And that's very much Uranian in nature. So tension is AI added this down here. So tension becomes the bridge, support becomes the wind. You are here to evolve, integrate, and align with your purpose. Let's go on to the next slide. So the interesting thing, we've got this little square here, which is just a bit, but it's also, we've got the opposition and now we've got a square. So it's just kind of more tension on top of tension. So on the 29th, we've got Venus, which moves fairly quickly, and Mars, which moves fairly quickly, not quite as fast as Venus, coming into a square with each other. Venus, as shown with this card, let me show you first on the chart. Venus is right here, and it's in a square. That's this red line right here to Mars. See, they're both at 21 degrees. That's how you know when they're in the same degree. They're a definite aspect to each other. And in this particular one, they're 90 degrees apart, which means they're a square. So Venus is represented, Venus in Virgo is represented with the Knight of Pentacles. Okay, the Venus in Virgo card in tarot is the Knight of Pentacles. And Venus in Virgo in astrology is in fall. In other words, it's in the least place it likes to be, because Venus is about love and women and what you're attracted to, what you're, you know, and money and luxury and things like that. And Virgo is very analytical and critical and trying to make things just so, and doesn't really care about luxury and that kind of stuff. So indulgence. So they kind of, not exactly the same, but it's about being analytical with your money, which is why maybe the Knight of Pentacles shows up here, because this person maybe was very smart and analytical with their money and how they used it, how they spent it, how they saved it, etc. Therefore it built up and they created their own sovereignty. So that's why this is kind of an end result, I believe, of this Venus in Virgo. But that kind of energy can be in square to Mars and Gemini. So Mars is, you know, very, it can be impatient, impulsive, passionate kind of energy. Lots, you know, wherever Mars is in your chart, that's where you definitely are putting a lot of effort into something. And so being in Gemini, Gemini is about how you communicate, how you think, where you put your focus, where you're thinking about things. And so, to the point where it can be overthinking, and that's what's showing up on this card. So mental stress, restlessness, reactivity. You've got Mars and Gemini right here in square to. So you've got this overthinking that doesn't quite work well with being analytical about your interests or what interests you. They don't quite mesh together. However, even though, you know, they don't quite mesh together very well, and it can create some tension to try to do both at the same time. They are both ruled by Mercury in Cancer. So what does that mean? That means every sign has a ruler. The ruler for, and some signs have the same ruler. So Mercury actually rules both Virgo, which is the sign Venus is in, and Gemini, which is the sign that Mars is in. So they have a commonality. They have something that they share, even though they're in a square with each other. So that makes it, the square, not quite as bad. So Mercury being in Cancer can kind of also direct where Venus is spending its energy, where Mars is spending its energy. And since Mercury's in Cancer, it's going to be more of a home, family, emotional connection kind of thing. Mercury brings the focus homeward. So wherever the square is, you might experience some sort of tension, challenge, something like that in your home environment with regards to finances, with regards to family. There might be, but it's brief. It's not going to be an ongoing, huge type of thing. So just navigate with awareness and, think about what's going on and no big deal. Sorry. I'm choking on my, hold on. Sorry about that. Okay, moving on to, now this is the icing on the cake. So on July 29th, we have a full moon with Jupiter. So I've already showed you the basket. You're aware of the basket. I apologize, this is upside down, but if I put it right side up, the basket's upside down. So I thought you might find it easier to look at with the basket in the same direction that it was before. I couldn't get it to look the right side up way. So we've already talked about the sides of the basket, but the thing that's really interesting this time is that we've got this full moon right on top of the basket. So when you have a full moon, you have the sun in opposition to the moon. So here's the moon, here's the sun, and they're in opposition to each other. So that, and full moons are about shining the light on something, kind of bringing something to culmination, illuminating something. So it's right on top of the basket, like the icing on the cake. And it's not just the full moon on top of the basket. This opposition, this full moon opposition, has other planets involved. So the sun has an exact conjunction with Jupiter, and the moon has not an exact conjunction with Pluto, even though I have it at 4 degrees here. That's not quite right. The moon would be at 6 degrees for an exact full moon, but it's still within 2 degrees, and I'd consider that a conjunction, especially with the moon moving so fast. So it's moon conjunct Pluto. So looking at our cards over here, which they don't quite follow the basket, so I apologize for that. But so the way I wanted it to show is that you've got, the way the full moon works is, the moon is getting the full exposure of the sun, and then it's reflecting that light onto the earth, right? So here's the full light of the sun right here, and the sun is shown with the sun card, and because it's conjunct Jupiter, it's taking on the properties of Jupiter. They kind of merge together and become a single entity with blended character traits, right? So you've got this expansion of the sun and the sun qualities. You've got optimism, expansion, confidence, opportunity, etc., etc. And that sun is shining on the moon, and the moon in tarot is represented by the high priestess. Okay, and the high priestess, she's got secrets behind her, things, hidden things and secrets behind her curtain. And she's also very good with her intuition. And she is in conjunction with Pluto, which is that judgment card, right? And judgment cards can be about deep transformation. It can be about waking people up to things that were deeply hidden, and so on. So you've got these two merging together, creating the situation about something behind the veil that's being exposed, right? What you can see with that. And then what happens, the interesting thing that I saw, especially including the tarot, is that the moon in Aquarius card itself is this card, the 7 of Swords. the Seven of Swords is that card of strategy. It's the card where it looks like somebody is manipulating the war by, trying to adjust the outcome by stealing some swords from the opponent's camps or something like that. So he's doing a manipulation. He's doing a strategy. He's doing something that's kind of, it's something you would normally do in secret. You could argue what that's about. I mean, he's like in broad daylight, so I don't know if he wants to be caught or what. But, I mean, it is a card about doing strategy, manipulating something. And sometimes Janine Morgeau calls it like it's part of the movie. It's a movie, can be one of her movie cards. So here it says strategy, discretion, choosing your moves with wisdom and care, and not everything is as it seems. So what's happening? This is not just a moon in Aquarius. This is a full moon in Aquarius. This is an exposure, bringing something to light. It's bringing to light. So the moon is shining its light down on this guy who's trying to do something secretive, and it's exposing it. Here, these two cards are kind of like something shocking or something waking people up that's being exposed. And if you look over here at the full moon, because it's on top of this Barbault basket, it's like it's exposing the whole basket, because once the light of the sun shines on the moon, that moon is making an aspect to all the points that create the basket. The Neptune point, the Uranus point, and then the sun point. It's making a connection and shining on all those points. It's affecting all those points. It's exposing all those points. So how long have those points been there? Well, this mini trine has been here for about a year and a half. So what's been going on over and over again in my previous astrology sessions, I've said, things are being built in the background. Systems are being built in the background. Maybe it's time to expose them now. Maybe it's time to say something about them now. I just did a read with Tarot by Lupo. Watch our collaboration. I did a read on this particular event because I wanted to know more about what's it going to look like. And it looks like there could be a lot of information coming out. And, yeah. And the other thing I want to talk about, too, well, let me just get to the world stage and then I'll go back to it. So how's this going to play out on the world stage? This seems to be a big event. I mean, I don't know when you're going to see something like a Barbault basket with a full moon on top conjuncting Jupiter and Pluto, which actually when Jupiter and Pluto themselves are in an opposition, that usually indicates a financial event. So let me just read what I have here. This seems to be a big event. With Pluto within 2 degrees of the moon, there is an added intensity here. With opposition to Sun and Jupiter together, we're talking truth about governments or government leaders. Jupiter and Pluto in opposition can be difficult for markets. That's what I was just saying. So it is an indicator for downturns in markets. With Venus, which can be money, square Mars, and Saturn in retrograde, these are more indicators for market downturn. Full moons themselves can be about bringing hidden things to light. In Aquarius, this can be about air travel, communications, or new technology. So, I think there's going to be, it's just something that we're not going to see again in our lifetime. And people even before, in generations before us, have not seen this. This is just so auspicious. So, you can't help but think something's going to happen here. So, I just want to go back up and look at this basket again quickly and just talk very quickly about the points of the basket. Okay, so the full moon is activating all of these placements, as I said before. And the sun, it represents confidence, identity, leadership, visibility, expansion, what we believe. On a mundane scale, it also represents our government and government leaders. The moon, on the opposite side in Aquarius, represents our collective emotion, our society, the public, groups of people, systems, and ideals. So Pluto, which is right next to it, often exposes what has been hidden or pushes deep transformation. So Pluto is an intense placement. Pluto on this moon is an intense placement. Now when we look at this alone, this is like, you can think of it as a tug of war, you know, with two sides pulling against each other. But it's not just that rope and those two sides playing tug of war. We've got this whole basket here, and these are not red, these are blue. These are positive supporting aspects. You could kind of look at them as shock absorbers, so, trying to alleviate some of the roughness you would feel as you go down the road with a car. A shock absorber kind of eases that tension, that the harshness. So while Sun and Jupiter over here are saying, I know who I am, you got Moon and Aquarius over here saying, so how does you knowing who you are serve us? So you can see this tension between people and their governments. But with the stabilizers down here, let's look. You've got the Moon right here, and then you've got this trine down to Uranus, right? And when you follow this line up here, it goes to the Sun-Jupiter aspect. So here's one shock absorber right here from Uranus. And what is it doing? Well, it causes people to question their assumptions. So for all the people out there who are saying Orange Man bad, or are saying, yeah, I totally trust what my government's doing. I know they're all working in my best interest and for my good. They're going to start saying, maybe the Orange Man is trying to do something good, or maybe this government or my government is not trying to help me after all. They're going to question their assumptions. They're going to get new ideas, communication, technology, information, alternative viewpoints that are going to enable an absorption of the tension that is happening here. The other point of the basket is Neptune right here. And Neptune is also a shock absorber who has a trine to the Sun-Jupiter conjunction and a sextile up here to Moon. And what is Neptune doing? It is saying, remember compassion. We're going to the higher road here because we've got these positive aspects. We're going toward compassion instead of illusion and delusion, okay? We're going to inspiration, intuition, imagination, spirituality, surrender. We're going to a place where there is more understanding instead of just reaction. So these things are here to enable us to absorb what is being said without having a terrible reaction to it. For those who do go out and react, they're just, I don't know, NPCs. I mean, maybe they are like oblivious to astrology energy. I don't know, but they're just not feeling it, But for those who do feel it, this is how it's going to impact people. It's going to enable us to see things with compassion and to question the assumptions that we've already have, so that maybe we can get a truer picture of what's going on. So this whole thing is urging compassion and asks, can you see the humanity in this? The full moon may not be remembered for a single dramatic event. Maybe nothing will happen that way, Maybe it's just going to be like a collective realization where people suddenly connect dots, that they haven't been able to do before. The dots that are in plain sight. That would be a very Aquarian thing to do, connecting the dots and creating a system out of what appears to be, things that don't connect together. So that's it. I just wanted to kind of go over that a little bit more in detail because it really is a big deal. It's probably one of the biggest things we'll experience in our lifetime, and maybe it's going to be just a quiet event, and it's not going to be chaos and rebellion and all that kind of stuff. Maybe it's just going to be a realization by people on a grand scale. Hard to say. But that's pretty much it. That's the astrology for the week. And I hope you enjoyed my explanation of it and the use of the tarot imagery. If you do, give me a thumbs up. And please leave comments. I love to have feedback. If you have any other suggestions for things you'd like to see in regards to the astrology, let me know. I will certainly consider them. I just did, as I mentioned before, I did a collaboration with Tarot by Lupo. We had a fantastic collaboration where we had questions answered about a video put out by Penny Kelly that talks about this bridge to a second Earth. Very interesting to think about. And he does a read on that, and then I did a read on this astrology, like how will this play out and what does this look like. So I hope you'll check that out and watch that. And then I will have a What's the Word Wednesday where I'll just kind of take the temperature. And since that will be on the day of the full moon, that'll be a very interesting day to take the temperature and see how this energy is playing out. So hopefully you'll be back to see that. And I hope you all have a great week. Take care.